Hey there guys, so now we done the useState. Now comes the use effect, which I think is a lot more complicated than the useState, at least for me it has proven to be. But anyways, I tried to come up with a simple implementation inspired by the React source of somewhat. We'll see how it goes. So okay, we have two useState, so it is working now. You can increment it, you can set the greeting, so it works. And like the use effect is basically a way to accomplish things that you would normally do in component did mount, component did update, and component will unmount. So depending on how you set up your use effects, it will kind of achieve the same thing. So let's start with some simple things. So I just want to console log out from effect, and obviously if we throw an error, use effect is not defined. So let's start by fixing these things. Use effect is not defined. Go to React, use effect. Let's use effect. I like to get rid of all of these things just for now. Get next hook will definitely be needed, and the signature for this is something like, so it will take a function first of all, and this function is any function that can return a function that doesn't need to return anything. So that's the first argument, and the second argument is an array of, well, I think an array of, basically it can be anything. Okay, and it returns nothing. Okay, so what we do is we pass a function here, and yeah, so it works, it does nothing. And this is a function, so I'd be able to use it here and just simply call it. But like, okay, so what's the problem with it? So it calls from effect, which is fine. The problem with it is that we are now currently in the render phase, and you can do all sorts of things, right? So you can modify the DOM, you can reach out to some API. So in one word, you can create side effects from here. So the problem is that side effects, definitely we don't want to do side effects in the render phase, because that's really, really bad. So that would be the easy solution, just simply call the function here, but we can't do that, because what we need to do is we need to do the same thing. We need to delay the execution of the function to the painting phase. Okay, so having said that, so we call get next hook, so it's exactly gonna be the same thing as we did with the useState. The only difference is gonna be that the object structure that we will call the memoir state will be a lot different here, but that's pretty much what we need. So we can assume that if there is no queue, that's the initial render, and if that's the initial render, then we wanna set it to some structure, and then we wanna put this onto here. Okay, so what will be the state of this? This will be, one of them will call create, and create actually gonna be the function itself. We will have something called destroy, which will be null at the moment. We will have something called input, which will be null at the moment, and we will have something called effect, which will be just a simple passive at the moment. So create is going to be the function that needs to be called. Destroy is going to be, so if you check the React docs or the conference, you know that useEffect can return a function. So I can do something like return console log clean up. So that's kind of a cleanup phase. That's called just before the next render. It's kind of a cleanup phase. Or you can consider it in special cases that we will later cover, this is the component did mount and this is the component will unmount. So that function, what is returned from here, that's gonna be the destroy. The input is, you can do something like you can specify like value here, which means that only run the effect when the value changes over renders, but I just like to leave it out for now because it really complicates things. But that's definitely the input. Actually, I can put it here. So we have create, we have input, and now we can leave it out. And effect is just simply a way to tell later on and communicate it to the painting phase that what kind of effect it will be. There are, I think there is some layout effect, passive effect, no effect. That's definitely a thing, but I just like to cover the passive effect and no effect in this series. So passive effect. Okay, so now if I console log out, now we can see that we have the memoized state of that create function, destroy null, effect pass set, input undefined, because we were not passing a second argument. Okay, now that's all good, but we need to tell somehow what needs to be done on the painting phase, and in order to do so we need to modify our fiber structure a tiny bit. So when the fibers are created, they are in the phase of we haven't really touched this. Sorry, that's not relevant to our case at the moment. I just want, so that's a placement as well. If it's the place, if it's a placement, we need a memoized state here again. That's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do is I wanted to create an update queue, which will be an array, and I need this here, and I need this here. Okay, so we have this update queue, and now that we have the latest effect here, what we can do is we can grab the fiber and grab the update queue, and we can push our latest creation onto it. And now if we console log current fiber out, we'll have a lot of good things on it. So first we have this update queue, and it has the, so it's an array, and the only one thing on it at the moment, like the create function and the passive effect. But we also have the memoir state, and now it has 3 hooks. So here is the useState, the other is the second useState, and the third is the use effect. So that's how we utilize this kind of structure. Okay, so now we created the use effect hook on the render phase, and we haven't executed yet. So now comes the actual part when we potentially modify and potentially create side effects. So the place for this is commit all work. Sorry. So we need to put it to the place where we normally start dealing with the side effects, which is this place. So we need to const effect hooks and fiber effects filter, and we need to filter out the effect where effect update q dot length not equals 0. And now we need to have effect hooks for each. Sorry, that's an effect. For each and I just want to console log this out. Okay, so 356 we have our only use effect. So what we can do here is we can call create on it. And now if I refresh, here is the from effect. So now we achieved some really good things, because we are able to call an effect outside of the render phase. So the thing is created in the render phase, just like our functions like component did mount, component did update, and things like that, but it's actually called outside of the render phase. So okay, that's good. What we need to do now is we need to, because if I call increment, the problem is that first of all it's just simply stuck in the queue. There is no more, if you go to the fiber, you can see that it's stuck, so there's only one thing in the queue because we're not handling this branch. So the next thing is if we already have a queue, then what we need to do is we need to have this and push our latest memoir state onto the queue. So now when we call increment, a few times and check the fiber, now you can see that it actually takes up all the things that were there. Okay, but if I get rid of these console logs here, so we have from effect. The problem is that according to React API docs. On the next rendering, I should see the cleanup first and the from effect, but all I can see is from effect, so obviously it's because we are not calling the destroy stuff. So to fix this, I need to do a few things. So let's imagine the first render. We have so let's actually call, like, let destroy equals okay. And what do I need to do? Because it's in the first render, it's gonna be null. So what I need to do is if type of destroy equals function, then call it, and then since create returns another function, let's assign it there. So now in the next render, when I come back here, I know that the memoize state's destroy has been modified. So what I can do is I can create some let prev effect. So if there is a queue, so it's not the first render, I can do something like prev effect equals this bit. And now I can set destroy to be prev effect dot destroy. So the next time when we got back, you can pick up the destroy function from the hook and you can actually call it. So if I increment it now, first is cleanup from effect, cleanup from effect. To make it more obvious, I think we can use something like plus value and plus value. So from effect 0, obviously. So I expect if I click on increment, I expect a cleanup 0, then a from effect 1. A cleanup 0 from effect 1. And it goes on till infinity. Okay, so that is the part where we only have to deal with destroys and creates. Okay, so let's wrap it up here. And the next video, well, actually we don't need, we need to do that one. Yeah, okay, so in the next video we'll dig into the input field, because that's the one that will complicate things. Okay, thanks for listening and see you next time, guys. Bye.